the Lotus came to be embodied in the bold and creative design for the Bahai Temple.
All the people in all the religions, they have accepted Lotus as a unique symbol of spirituality, purity, and it represents the messengers of God.
Mr. Sahba's drawings describe a remarkable structure. 3 rows of 9 petals, each spring from a podium, which elevates the building above the surrounding plain. The first 2 rows curve inward, embracing the inner dome, rising to 34 meters. The middle set of petals reaches more than 22 meters, some 70 feet into the air. The third layer curves outward to form canopies over the 9 entrances. The diameter across the entrance petals is 70 meters, 230 feet. The main load of the building is borne by 9 large archways, which frame the central auditorium. The main building is surrounded by 9 pools of water, whose shape suggests the floating leaves of the lotus. The central circular auditorium seats 1,200 people with the ability to accommodate an additional 1,000. The entire superstructure functions as a series of skylights, allowing light into the central hall the same way light passes through the petals of a lotus flower. The new temple in India joins the distinguished company of Bahai houses of worship on every continent. All share certain design elements: the 9-sided structure, a central dome, interiors bathed in natural light, symbolic of unity and the light of divine guidance. Yet each is unique, expressive of the cultural heritage of its own area. Mr. Sahba's breathtaking design was readily accepted, but his unusual concept presented a formidable engineering problem. How do you create a large, structurally sound building that still captures the delicate natural form of the lotus? To tackle the problem of structural design, Mr. Sahba chose the Flint & Neal Partnership of London as structural consultants.
The most important aspect of the development of the design was hinged on the use of modern computing techniques. In 1978, when Mr. Sahba and we first got together, that we had a new generation of computer software which was vastly more powerful than anything we'd had before.
The architectural and engineering teams worked closely together over an 18-month period. Consultation helped them achieve unity between the design and structural requirements. The final design was almost identical to the architect's original drawings. Bold and daring, a lattice of thin concrete shells without supporting beams. Delicate, like an eggshell, drawing strength almost totally from their shape. Freestanding petals, complex curves and arches, utterly impossible to build without the most advanced technology. Yet Indian construction techniques are labor-intensive, with minimal equipment and time-worn methods. A leading British architect commented at the time, "To build such a structure in Europe would be extremely difficult. In India, impossible." At the site, work began early in 1978. Mr. Sahba shifted his office from London to assemble the construction team, assuming the additional role of project manager. The project recruited up to 800 people, most of whom would live at the site over much of the next 6 years. In an unprecedented move, the project established a school providing education and childcare so parents could work nearby without anxiety. The workers came from all parts of India, people of different regions, different languages, different faiths. Women workers removed hundreds of tons of earth and rock from the extensive excavations and carried the concrete for much of the structure. Each woman walked an estimated 21 kilometers per day, carrying as much as 20 tons of material in an 8-hour shift. Once the basement and podium were constructed, the 9 massive supporting arches were completed. Then the extraordinary process of creating the shells began. Construction of a shell structure of such size and complexity had never been attempted anywhere in the world, and many engineers considered it a practical impossibility. Architect, designers, and contractors, engineers conducted months of research and experimentation to find innovative approaches and develop workable new building techniques. Experimental models were built out of timber. Patterns were created for the formwork that would shape the cement petals. New concreting techniques had to be developed. For aesthetic and structural reasons, Mr. Sapa was determined to avoid construction joints in the shells. This required finding a way to pour the thin 13-centimeter shells up to 22 meters high in one continuous operation. This was more than 10 times the maximum height of pour recommended by the consultants. Pouring to such heights and compacting concrete in the narrow forms, which for some shells was no more than 7 centimeters wide and curved in 2 directions, posed the most formidable challenge. Months of consultation finally produced a complex plan requiring the precise coordination of some 300 workers at a time, working rapidly, precisely, and continuously for periods of up to 48 hours. In preparation, thousands of square feet of formwork were painstakingly laid out on precise geometric coordinates and fixed to a specially designed steel space frame. The outer formwork was then systematically numbered for reassembly and removed. The inner formwork, built to furniture makers' standards, was precisely aligned and sealed. The cage of galvanized reinforcement was carefully fixed in place. As concreting commenced, the outer formwork was put in position 1 row at a time. To compact the concrete, needle vibrators were threaded into pre-planned positions by workers standing on platforms 10 meters above the pouring level. As soon as the concrete reached the level of the outer formwork, the masons and concrete teams stepped back, and the carpenters rushed forward to fix the next level of the outer formwork. They had only 10 minutes to complete the task, lest the concrete begin to set. A supervisory team then quickly double-checked the reinforcement and forms placement, and the next level of pouring immediately began, repeating the entire cycle, step by step. With the coordinated efforts of hundreds of hands, the delicate concrete petals grew skyward. Meanwhile, teams of workers were systematically pouring over the steel frame, tightening any nuts worked loose by the constant vibration. This complex operation had to proceed flawlessly and without interruption through multiple shift changes. In spite of scorching heat, torrential monsoon rains, high winds, equipment breakdowns, and frequent power outages.
You can say 300 people are working at a time on these platforms, and they talk in 10 different languages. We came together and we worked like absolute members of one family. Working because you are living together, you are working around the clock. And every night, this concreting of these shells has been done in one piece, one go. 48 hours has taken to complete one of these shells.
The entire structure and scaffolding had to be covered with heavy tarpaulins to protect it from heat and heavy monsoon rains. To keep the concrete mix cool enough to set properly in the intense summer heat of central India, tons of ice were crushed by hand each day and added to the mix.